Anna Firth.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I would like also to start by congratulating the Honourable Member for Crawley on bringing this important issue to this place today. I, like many others, have been written to by people across Southend West who feel really strongly about this issue and really want to see the government take action on it. And it's an absolute pleasure for me to be here today to represent their views, because I agree with them all that elephants, lions, rhinos, leopards and polar bears all have two things in common. They are all facing the threat of extinction, and they are all the target of trophy hunters around the world. As my honourable friend has pointed out, and others too, we were all rightly outraged by the killing of Cecil the lion in Zimbabwe 7 years ago. But the sad reality is that there are thousands of Cecils every single year. And I, like many others, am sickened and disgusted when I see these pictures on social media of trophy hunters grinning beside magnificent creatures that we all know deserve to live in their natural habitat without the fear of being hunted as a commercial sport by people exploiting them. And I think one of the most abhorrent of these practices is the so-called canned lion hunts, whereas we know these wonderful creatures are bred in confined reserves, not in their natural habitat at all, to grow up and be shot by trophy hunters with no chance at all of escape. And as others have mentioned, it's shocking that according to the campaign to ban trophy hunting, there are more than 300 of these lion factory farms currently in existence, run by trophy hunting holiday firms. And these lions, after being artificially exterminated for pleasure, are then often used, their bones, to make lion wine and lion cake. All the while we fail to prevent these imports, the UK implicitly condones the actions of these sick individuals. I have no doubt that generations in the future will look back at this moment in horror, and they will draw the comparison between canned lion hunting and medieval practices such as bear baiting and the sort of animal baiting contests that were prevalent in ancient Rome. Our global wildlife, as we know, has declined 60% over the last half a century, and that's the backdrop that we are looking at this matter. And that's why we must take a stand against those who seek to destroy wildlife. And we can and must assert the UK's leading role as a champion for the protection of wildlife. The trophy hunting industry will have you believe the myth that trophy hunting is important for conservation, but too often this is nothing more than a smokescreen to rationalise the killing of endangered animals for pleasure. These arguments are outdated, tired excuses, and we must not opt for the so-called smart ban, which would limit the ending of trophy hunting imports just to those obtained through canned hunts. The evidence also suggests that the benefits to local communities, often touted as justification for trophy hunting, is overstated. On average, local communities receive only 3% of revenue from trophy hunting, while the industry generates a mere 0.3% of total tourism revenue in the African countries which allow it. These figures are minuscule compared to the advantages of us preserving the wildlife across the world. In fact, many African communities are strongly against the practice. A recent poll showed 70% of South African citizens believe their country would be a more attractive tourist destination if they ended trophy hunting. We know that in 1977 Kenya banned trophy hunting, and we should support others to follow in their footsteps through this and other trade policies. Several of my colleagues, including the Honourable Member for Crawley, recently had the pleasure of hosting the former President of Botswana, Ian Khama, in this House. And in a video ahead of today's debate, Mr Khama said, and I quote, "A significant contributor to this fast diminishing jewel of nature is the slaughter of many species purely for enjoyment and the pleasure of inflicting death on our planet's wonderful creatures. Earlier this year, I attended a reception held by the Conservative Animal Welfare Foundation in memory of their late patron and the MP whose constituency I am proud to now represent, Sir David Amis. This was a campaign he felt particularly passionately about, and it would be remiss not to acknowledge his years of work to see the subject of today's debate become a reality. It was Sir David who time and time again championed an end to trophy hunting imports, and I would like us to remember all that he has done to have this supported. I would also like to thank the all-party parliamentary group for banning trophy hunting, spearheaded by my right honourable friend Sir Roger Gale, who is in his place, who has also worked tirelessly to see an end to hunting trophy imports. Ending trophy hunting imports is supported by MPs from every party in this House, as has been demonstrated today by the speeches, the passionate speeches from right across the House. Indeed, this vile trade truly unites an ever-divided politics, and it's also something which unites the British people. When the government consulted on this policy in 2019, it received over 44,000 responses, which showed clear constituent and conservation group support for tighter restrictions. And as we've heard, 86% of the UK public would like to see this bill become law. A view which, interestingly, is even more strongly shared by Conservative Party voters, 92% of whom support ending the UK's association with the trophy hunting trade. As their representatives in Parliament, we must listen. The UK will not be the first country to take a stand against trophy hunting, with France and Australia both having banned the import of lion hunting trophies in 2015. The Netherlands banned trophy hunting imports of more than 200 species in 2016. We can and should follow their example. So let us be clear. There is no place for this practice in a civilised society. And if we can eradicate our role in this trade, then we must endeavour to do so. Having begun in the 19th century under the British Empire as a new recreation, today we must consign this to a relic of the past. Let us ensure that the UK is on the right side of history and say no to trophy hunting imports.